Hello! This is the back of a 1982 EXP. Well, for 82 to 88, they're all pretty much the same, or at least as far as what we're talking about today goes. But this is the rear cargo compartment. Forgive my louvers hanging out here, but this is what the rear cargo piece looks like. It's a giant piece of carpet, and it's attached to a foam molded support that goes where it goes over the rear portion of the floor pan. It's actually the seat pan for the back seat of an Escort, but EXPs don't have back seats, so they put in this molded foam piece and then wrap a carpet over it. And then you grab the carpet back, roll it forward, you access your spare tire. But we'll show you how it connects to the car. In this car, I have an EXP rear cargo molded insert thing. Later years, they eventually made this plastic, and you can tell those apart because they're black. But yeah, there's some sort of injection molded black plastic. But all the earlier ones are foam like this. And you can see that the carpet is more or less attached to it, and it has these cargo ribs. It's great for sliding cargo along. But how are these attached into the car is as follows. Each car will have a pair of hooks on the seat floor pan, and they both wrap around this bar. And it's not very secure. It's a peg kind of goes inside the loop, and it can just hang out inside there. The peg just keeps it from shooting forward, falling backwards. So it's just those two. And then they all have screw holes in the rear. Once you pull out the carpet, you'll see those. But they don't all use them. But we'll walk on over to a car that has the loop so I can kind of show you what we're talking about. Okay, so these are those loops. So those metal bars that I showed you earlier, they just go inside these retainers. And these guys are the same between the Escort and EXP. In fact, everything under here is the same aside from these seat belt mounts. But to remove that EXP panel, like I said, there's sometimes a couple screws, just one on each rear corner of that panel once you fold the carpet over. But once you get rid of those, you can grab up underneath the panel. There's two openings, one here, one over there, and they're just big enough for you to get your hand underneath, work it back and forth, and you put your other hand on the chrome grab bar, and as you work back and forth, you're eventually able to get the pin into the opening, and then it'll pop out. So you just have to be gentle, real gentle with it, because it's easy enough to break those pins free. Then you're in a world of hurt. But what's nice is once you have that out, you can insert a rear seat. So this is a rear seat kit, and it was these were made, or at least this one was made by a company called Pacific, or maybe Pacific Coast Products. And it drops right in to an EXP with pretty much no modifications. It even comes with the rear cargo carpet attached. It just doesn't have the chrome bar, but I do have one for it. And it does fold down flat, unlike the Escort ones. When they fold down, they're at a pretty steep incline, but these do fold down flat. And they do have a release mechanism, this kind of a T-handle here, so when you pull that, you're able to flip it up or flip it back down. But otherwise, all you have to do is just install a few seat belts, and then you're set. Towards the bottom, on each side, it's kind of hard to see, but there are a couple metal pieces of sheet metal, and you have to run a screw through those. There's one in the front corner of each end, and then one in the back corner, exactly like the original carpet insert that I showed. But once you do those, then it's kind of locked in, and then you just have to mount the seat belts. Sadly, EXPs don't have factory rear seat belt mounts, so you have to get creative. But I'll hop on in. Yeah. So as you can see, it does work. Sadly, though, it's kind of tight on legroom. Legroom is comparable between this and a two-door Escort. The 4-door Escorts, the seats are a little farther forward, but on the 2 doors, they're very much like these EXPs. But I have this seat as far forward as it goes. If I reach up front, pull the lever back, and that's not even as far back as it goes. And yeah, you can see I am now trapped in here. The driver would be holding me captive. So we'll send this forward. But otherwise, it is quite comfy. It's the same exact material as the stock seats, and it does fold flat. Does fit the molding quite well. Like I said, the carpet is the same. Seat belts are even EXP specific. But headroom, here's where these get tricky. These are really made for only kids. You can tell because the back is only that tall. It's not as tall as the Escort seats we'll show in a minute. But you can see here, my head doesn't quite clear here. And what we'll do is we'll close the hatch, and then we'll have you guys see me through this back window so you can see how tight this is for someone who's 6 foot 2 inches, and 34 of those inches of my height is in my legs. So I have a shorter torso, but it'll still swallow me up. So we'll pause the camera, and then you can start filming again. Yeah, so you can see my head is hitting the glass, and I know this is the notchback car. You know, any 82, 83 EXP is going to be a notchback like this. But even the bubble back cars, you know, any of the LN7s or the 84 and up EXPs, they're going to have the same issue because I'm hitting my head towards the top of the glass. The bubble backs are only big towards the middle, but I'm thumping my head pretty good. And this is kind of comparable to like the back seat of an 80s Dodge Charger. If you've ever had a chance to sit in them, it's a similar experience. They do have a little bit more legroom, but the headroom is also as equally limited as this is. So this will not be comfortable for anyone over, I'd say, 4 feet tall. Maybe if you're 5 feet tall, you can squeeze in here without issue. Like I said, this is primarily aged children. But we'll pause the video and we'll move on over to the Escort. Alright, and then you can hit play whenever. Okay, so now we're in the 81 Escort Wagon. As you can see, someone had the seat reclined in front of me. I take that back, that's in the stock setting. But yeah, legroom is a little bit better. If I scooch the seat forward, there we go. There we go. That's as forward as it gets. And now, legroom is adequate. Headroom is significantly better, and there's a few reasons for this. The Escort roof line is about 2 inches taller than the EXP. That's part of what makes the EXP special. Is they lowered the roof, the entire roof, about 2 inches. So now I actually have about 3.5, 4 inches of head clearance versus the EXP where I was touching the glass. So things are definitely a little better in here. But this is a stock Escort seat. The later ones, they changed a little bit. They made the bottom foam thinner, and that meant that when you flop this thing down, it actually lays flat. In later years, they also moved the handle, but when I fold it flat, it's obviously not flat. It's got quite the incline on it. So they eventually fixed that. And then the later ones, they made the later ones so that the bottom bum was not only thinner, but it also tipped forward in a way, kind of like modern cars. A lot of station wagons, expeditions, things like that. Bottom tips forward, this upright flips down, and now this guy is perfectly flat. So they eventually did that, and then the later cars, you could have an optional dual side back seat, I think they call it. But instead of being one-piece bench, each half could fold down, so you could fold down one, you'd have someone sitting here and have hockey sticks in the other, whatever. But yeah, this is kind of all there is. So a lot of questions are, can you put this exact thing or similar Escort factory seats, can they go straight into an EXP? Yes, they can, actually. The bottom bunds have the same rail hookup thingy that the EXP cargo insert has. So you pull that out, and this is a direct drop in. But if you want your seat to hinge like some do, you have to add that hardware, that hinging hardware up front. And if you want the back to release like this one does, you have to add loops like these, and you have to add the pivot hinges down below underneath this fold. And then, of course, like we mentioned earlier, you do have to add the seat belts. I don't know where the rear seat belts for this guy went. They might be hiding underneath the carpet or possibly under the bun. But they would be here because these just use lap belts. Even the later cars, they only use lap belts. I don't recall any Escorts using shoulder belts until the 91 up, but that's a totally different car. You don't want those. Those won't work for you. Other questions are, do rear Mustang seats work? As far as I know, no. And I'm going to assume they don't, because Mustangs are a little wider, and I know most of that is just in the fenders. The fenders have an extra 4 inches, and you can see that when you hold them side by side. But the interiors are a little wider, so I imagine the rear seat is wider. I will find out. But yeah, all in all, this could be a worthwhile modification for an EXP if you have kids. It's great for that. If you're looking to haul your adult buddies, not going to happen. Unless you do it for the memes. That's always fun. But I really wouldn't recommend it. And you'll want to talk to your insurance agency and your local DMV DOT. Make sure that's legal to do. Adding a seat in a car that didn't originally had it. But you're welcome to argue and say, well, the Escort's the same thing. It all bolts in fine. It's safety fine. But that's for you and them to work out. It's not for me. I'm only the message carrier, so don't shoot me if that don't work out. But yeah, I think we'll stop the video in a little bit, and we'll catch you guys later.